Okay, Lowe's 413 customer bunch. This is a detail video for this kitchen. This kitchen is very unique. Of the corner angle sink bases that we have, this is one of the more unique features in this kitchen because it has such a small return behind the sink area. But then the other thing is too, it has a return wall here on this wall that's 45 degrees to the room. So you actually have, if I step back here a little bit, you actually have the back wall with this stove. You have a small 45-degree return here that actually gets accentuated because of the depth. You see the face frames, they pull forward. But then over here on this wall, you've got a doorway, and they actually have done the returns on the countertops there on both sides of that. And I know it's funny to say, but you see this space here? This is just an aesthetic piece. There's no access to this. This is just hollow. This is an aesthetic piece to go right above the counter piece below. And this is just sort of the way they did it back in the day. I mean, this is just a return, for return's sake, on the wall. So a couple things about this one. When you start designing, you're going to want to lay these walls out. These are, best I can tell, true 45-degree walls. So 225 degrees on your turn as far as the rotation turn on your walls. When you actually are looking at your spacing and stuff in here, I've given you some face frame measurements, but the customer said overall the floor doesn't matter because they are planning on doing a new floor after they do the cabinets. So the floor footprint isn't as hugely important on this one as it is getting the proportions right for where the sink is, the undermount sink. She wants to keep a double bowl and some of these other things that she's wanting to do. Now, I've given you measurements from the corner to the edge of the stove and the stove width and the corner again, all these different parts. The measurements on this wall I've given you from the corner at the corner of the 45 to the edge of the pantry as it stands here now, okay? The reason I'm doing that is if you look back in there in that corner, there's actually a little receptacle here to the left of the pantry. That's a GFI in the run of those countertops on that side. This pantry is 32 inches wide, so as far as this placement for the refrigerator, this is actually a good placement for your refrigerator in the new layout. Now over here on this wall, they're talking about doing like a beverage center or something under the counter, and then some other cabinets up here above this after you pass where the refrigerator is going to go. All that's great. We've got plenty of return wall right here, but we need to talk about this molding treatment here at the ceiling. These cabinets are only 84 inches tall. The ceiling height in this room is around 95.5 as an average, and the flooring thickness you're going to put down is actually possibly going to make that even shorter. So we need to look at a top alignment of 90 inches for the cabinets, which would be 36-inch uppers with a 5-inch or so riser on the front of those. That would be up into the ceiling area for the cabinets then. And this particular molding right here is a 3 5/8 store stock MDF type molding. Now the proprietary molding that comes from the kitchen cabinet company will not match the shape of this. There's not enough caulk in the world to make those two heal up together. So you probably want to do this as a riser section on the cabinets and then actually use store stock moldings to come out on the front, cross, and follow the round to the other section where they return, okay? And that would be the best use of a molding treatment above the new cabinets. Now, when it comes to what your customer wants to do, if they want to stay below that molding, that's great. The bottom of that molding from the floor is around 92.5 inches, okay? So if you're looking at our cabinets at 90, your molding treatment can only be 2.5 inches above that. So you want to make sure that we don't have a too tall of a cabinet that it's going to conflict, and then that molding would simply run behind the new cabinets. So there's a couple of ways of handling that molding transition overhead. Now take a look here on the dishwasher spacing. If you notice, it's got the sink here in the corner. You've got a cabinet which has a face frame measurement on the drawing. Then you have the dishwasher, okay? Now the dishwasher is probably plumbed in behind everything and it has its power source there. Talk to the customer about where they want that at as far as spacing, because you're gonna get closer to the refrigerator with this one if the refrigerator comes this direction. And as far as the dishwasher goes, ask them if they wanna do anything about moving that around. Right now, the island in the middle of the room is approximately 5 foot by 2 foot. It's just a smaller type island, but it has these corner angles cut off on the edges for egress around it. So you have a kind of a thinner profile with those corners angled off. Also notice it has a toe kick underneath it, which is a pedestal toe kick. These are all things that if you're going to design it into the cabinets, you're going to create quite a bit of cost on the actual island. If you want to design it into the countertop, that's going to be a lot less expensive and the aesthetic will be the same. So again, when you start working on the layout of the island, be careful about some of these included corners and these included fluting, especially the built-in doors like this has. That will start to gain cost really quickly as far as the island panels. As far as this wall here, let's talk about the refrigerator as it is now. There is no plans to have any of this cabinetry here on this wall. This cabinet is actually becoming, or this wall is actually becoming a half wall, or we call it a knee wall or pony wall, and they're going to have that as an opening through to the other side of the other room in there, create a larger opening between the two. I would say probably the header that's above the door here would have to remain since it is a two-story house. But someone is going to have to determine whether this interior wall is a load-bearing wall, and then also the engineering that goes behind that, the LVLs or whatever type of materials needed to support the upstairs, all has to go into the factor behind this before they order the cabinets. You want to make sure that the engineering part of this is in mind. We know for sure what we can do. It's not going to be one of those HGTV things with a hammer, and then we find out later we got issues. So this has got to be discussed with the contractor. This has got to be something that the customer takes care of outside of us, and we absolutely know what we're doing there before we move forward with the cabinet purchase. Now the ceiling heights and everything, like I told you again, are around typical 95.5 inches or so for the height. And as far as the layout goes, once you get around the angles, once you get those in the computer, the face frame dimensions and stuff I've given you work as they are now. So you probably stick to most of those face frame dimensions. There is a couple of videos that I've showed her that actually show an apron farm sink corner, and there is a little bit of room for that. If we just slide the stove over about 3 inches, you'd still have plenty of room for that. There's also some in different videos that show like a single basin inside corner. So when it comes to this type of layout of kitchen, please get with me. We'll work together on trying to get the layout of the cabinets right, and I might have to come back and do another job site visit just to make sure we follow up on those measurements. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call at 423-650-1051. Have a good day.